Well, protests are exploding all across the country once again this morning, this time because a police officer in New York who killed a man with a chokehold will not face any criminal charges.
Yeah, yesterday a grand jury announced it was not going to indict Officer Daniel Panatello for putting Garrett Garner in a chokehold that killed him. Officers were arresting Garner, saying he was illegally selling cigarettes. Chokeholds are against NYPD policy, and the medical examiner ruled the death a homicide. The officer is apologizing for Garner's death, but some say it is not enough.
There's nothing that him or his prayers or anything else would make me feel any different. No, I don't accept his apology.
This protest comes just a week and a half after a grand jury announced then Officer Darren Wilson, would not be indicted for shooting and killing Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri last summer. That sparked protests across the country, including right here in Albuquerque. And in some overnight news here in Albuquerque, police are looking for the man who they say stabbed another after a night of drinking. Police were called to a home in Alvarado near San Mateo and Anderson in southeast Albuquerque around 1:30 this morning. They found a man stabbed in the collarbone. He was taken to the hospital. He's expected to survive, but listed in critical condition. Police say the two men got into some sort of fight, and that's when one stabbed the other. The other man ran off. Police are still looking for him at this time. Time now 6:03. Santa Fe detectives are so close to solving a 40-year-old mystery.
But the body of the teen they think could be the one that was missing is actually missing. Back in 1974, the naked body of a teenage girl was found dumped on the side of a highway, Highway 528 in Santa Fe. It was all by a couple looking for pine nuts. An autopsy showed that teen had been strangled. No one knew who she was. Then about a year ago, the DOE Network, a volunteer organization that helps solve cold cases, reached out to Santa Fe police.
They said this missing person really fits your Jane Doe, and would you guys look into it?
Well, they did, and a tip linked them to a woman in Michigan who says her 19-year-old sister disappeared at that same time, again back in the 70s after going to her boyfriend's house. The woman recognized items found on the girl's body, but detectives cannot confirm it is her without DNA. The girl was buried, they think, in a cemetery in Glorieta, but the records showing exactly where burned in a fire. And again, investigators cannot find her right now.
Was it murder or an accident? The city is taking a second look into Jasper the Tasmanian Devil, how it was killed. Jasper died 2 months ago at the Rio Grande Zoo after the news spread that he may have been murdered by someone who crushed his skull with a piece of asphalt. Animal lovers became enraged. But now investigators are again looking into if it was just an accident. Regardless, his death is now sparking changes at the zoo. Crews are installing surveillance cameras at popular exhibits. Another popular zoo animal, Lucy the Bengal tiger, has died. Lucy had a mass in her lung, so she had to be euthanized. She was 16 years old and had lived at the Rio Grande Zoo since she was only a few months old.
6:04, the Albuquerque School Board has tabled, basically put off on changing a policy that would allow APS workers to get paid even when they're not in the classroom. Back in 2012, the board decided it was not going to pay teachers and others who served as state senators and representatives. This is after a Larry Barker investigation showed some were taking advantage of the system. But last night, the board tabled a committee decision from the night before that was in favor of reversing the policy. The one board member who is against all of this is Marty Esquivel.
I think the board president really wanted to reassess it, and she mentioned she wanted to reassess it, but there was nothing really pressing in order to revisit it. So I think it's a little odd that we're revisiting it this time.
Mr. Esquivel says he thinks this is all about politics, but the board president, Annalise Maestas, says no, it's about being fair.
And we learned teachers at APS are making far less than their peers across the country, much less. A new report by the National Council on Teacher Quality says on average, the most a New Mexico teacher will typically make is about $59,000. That's $15,000 less than the average maximum salary nationwide. Get this, out of 115 districts surveyed, Albuquerque came in right at the bottom at 110th. Some residents in one Albuquerque neighborhood want answers. Several years back, their road was repaved, but workers never put that center line back in.
And now they are very concerned about safety. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is live out at Alameda and North Guadalupe Trail with more. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Matt, Crystal. Now, as you can see here, there are no stripes down the center of this street. It has some neighbors in the area concerned that it's led to some dangerous driving.
When you meet a car, sometimes they're way into the middle of the road. And I mean, that concerns me.
Residents say they see quite a bit of traffic on this road. It's one of the main roads people who live north of here use to get to Alameda. Plus, it's a popular place for bikes. Not to mention, it's a winding road with several sharp curves. Neighbors say they've already seen small crashes between drivers who were in the center of the road and couldn't get over in time. They say this road was repaved more than 5 years ago, along with its counterpart, South Guadalupe Trail. But while South Guadalupe Trail was restriped, North Guadalupe Trail was not. Neighbors say when they called to find out if it will happen, the only answer they got was no.
That's all he told me. I couldn't get him out of that no, so.
We went to the county to find out about their protocol when it comes to restriping residential streets. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Catherine. Coming up in a half hour, I'll let you know what the county had to say when we asked it about the protocol. Crystal.
A woman and her young son were living in such dangerous conditions it could have killed them. Kim Holland reported in her special assignment that Rose Martinez and her 4-year-old son were living in this: cracked walls and windows, covered electrical outlets. But the bigger problem lurked in the bedroom. Martinez and her son often had headaches and smelled gas. The problem, very poor ventilation.
Oh, the gas man came closer. His meter went off crazy that there's a smell back there. So he got on top of my bed, pulled this wall down, red tagged the heater.
Now, Kim Holland also confronted the landlords. Find out what happened tonight at 9 on 2 Casa Fox, or click on our website, krqe.com.
New for you this morning, Albuquerque police are still trying to find whoever stabbed a man in the collarbone overnight. Police say 2 men were drinking at this home on Alvarado near Gibson and San Mateo when one man stabbed the other, then took off. The man who was hurt was rushed to the hospital. We are told he should recover. Well, this morning, the mother of a 23-year-old woman here in New Mexico is still wondering why anyone would go kill her daughter.
A man has been arrested for her death, and according to court documents, he claims someone hired him to kill her. 23-year-old Ariel Ulibarri, mother of 2, was found dead in Goodwin Lake Trails Park in Clovis on November 9th. She'd been stabbed to death during a morning walk with her 6-year-old son. He was later found in a nearby parking lot uninjured. Now, according to court documents, Ulibarri's family found the murder weapon, a bloody knife, the next day. DNA evidence on that knife led police to 25-year-old Matthew Jennings, who was already behind bars for a probation violation. Jennings told police it was a murder for hire, but would not tell police who hired him. He claims it was revenge. Some people believe it has something to do with a man that she once dated, who is now in jail for a 2013 murder.
She wasn't there when all this happened. She was here at home. And all she did was get up and apologize to the people. If she would have known, she would have stopped it.
And we called Clovis police for more details on the murder and to ask them how they missed the murder weapon. We have not heard back from them yet. A pedestrian is still in critical condition this morning after a car hit her on Lomas near Eubank yesterday. The woman was rushed to the hospital. Police have not said who she is, who the driver is, or if the driver will face any charges.
All right, bad news this morning when it comes to the flu. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the vaccine this year may not be that great in preventing the flu because the virus is mutating. Scientists at the CDC also say the strain that is common this year has been linked to killing more people and sending more people to the hospital in the past than other strains. Still, doctors say go get the vaccine because it could reduce the severity of the flu if you do indeed get it. Well, several people in Santa Fe may have been exposed to measles by a patient infected with the disease. Christus St. Vincent Regional Medical Center says the patient went into the hospital there a little more than a week ago. 2 days later, staff discovered the person had measles. Now they're working with the Department of Health to try to find anyone who may have come in contact with that patient. Good news, though, 80 to 90% of people here in New Mexico have been vaccinated against the measles. Okay, coming up on 6:35, they say it is dangerous, and it could be just a matter of time before someone gets seriously hurt driving down a specific street just outside of Albuquerque.
Yeah, the road is missing something that the majority of other roads across the state already have. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is live at Alameda in North Guadalupe with more. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal, Matt. Now, 2 streets in this area were repaved several years ago. One was restriped. The one behind me, North Guadalupe Trail, was not.
They never restriped it, and I was just wondering why.
Some residents say they called the county but couldn't get answers, so we called. They told us according to traffic regulations, neither of these streets had to be striped because of their width. Plus, they're residential. But county reps say they used their own discretion to put stripes down on the other repaved street, South Guadalupe Trail. They say that street has more traffic, lots of cyclists, and plenty of curves compared to its North Guadalupe Trail counterpart. But folks on North Guadalupe Trail say without a line, people drive down the middle of the road, and they worry about head-on collisions. The county says without stripes, people are more likely to give fellow drivers the right-of-way.
When the opposing traffic comes or when they see a pedestrian or cyclist, people move freely through the road. And when there is oncoming traffic, then either there's slowing down or you wait for them to pass and everybody takes their turn.
Now, the county says it may sound counterintuitive to say that no stripes would be safer, but that's because they say when there are stripes down the center of the road, people are less likely to cross them in order to move out of the way for cyclists or pedestrians in the shoulder. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that information, Catherine. Now, residents we talked to were split on this issue. Well, some were in favor of the striping. Others didn't care one way or the other.
Well, UNM and the Pizza Company that just bought the naming rights to the pit are trying to do their best to sway people's opinions on the new name. Fans who walked into Wise Pies Arena last night definitely noticed the change, with some stopping to snap a pic or two. The local pizza startup bought the naming rights for a decade for $5 million. That was announced this week. Last night, Wise Pies reps were handing out free pizza coupons, telling fans, "Welcome to the pit." During a pregame ceremony honoring the company's owners, the public address announcer reassured fans as well.
Fans, rest assured, the pit will always be the pit.
Always be the pit. It may have worked. All the booze last night, most of them, were reserved for the visiting Aggies, not the new name. Sorry, Crystal. Sorry, Aggie fans. UNM topped New Mexico State pretty handily, 62 to 47.
Crushing my spirit this morning.
It was bad. All right. After a legal battle, we have learned that NMSU will get to keep the old Pistol Pete logo, but there are some new rules it's going to have to follow. Earlier this year, Oklahoma State University sued New Mexico State, saying the Aggies had stolen the classic mascot and made a lot of money off of it. The modern Pistol Pete isn't the issue. It's the classic one. Now, the president of NMSU says the duel is over, but there's a catch.
We cannot use it for athletics. Part of the deal was we would not use it in our athletic programs, and that was not our intention.
It wasn't? All right, in a new licensing agreement, the NMSU Aggies will pay the OSU Cowboys a whopping $10 a year, 10 whole dollars. Also, New Mexico State can sell no more than 3,000 things a year with the old Pistol Pete image.
And speaking of NMSU, should its football program be sacked? A sports website seems to think so. That's what the University of Alabama Birmingham did to its football program this week. The program has struggled financially and on the field for years now. Rantsports.com has put NMSU football on a list of 10 other schools they think should do the same. The site questions why New Mexico needs 2 Division I football teams. It says even if the Lobos and the Aggies combine their bowl win totals, you still only end up with 5.
For the record, hang on, put me up on camera real quick here. That's this many. That's this many. Okay, 6:39. Toys for Tots is getting some help from the community to make sure kids don't go without this holiday. Over the past 2 nights, KRQE, along with Albuquerque firefighters, Albuquerque police, and the U.S. Marines, had phone banks with the hopes of getting donations, cash, checks, credit cards, toys, to help thousands of children have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays this year. The goal was $20,000. You know what? Thank you, Albuquerque, because they didn't reach it. They broke it. $21,156. That's great. However, and I hate to beg and say this, but it's just not enough. They still need help. Thousands of kids need your help. So we're having another phone bank tomorrow morning with Toys for Tots. It's going to go from 7 to 9. Tune into KRQE this morning over on Channel 2 for more information on that. So, well, a kitten from Albuquerque that mysteriously ended up all the way in Maine in just a few days is headed back home today. Nobody knows how Spice here made it to Maine, but she traveled more than 2,300 miles after bolting from her apartment in the Duke City on Halloween. She was found outside of a thrift shop in Portland, zipped inside a duffel bag with cat food inside. The good news, she was microchipped, and a shelter there tracked her down, or her owner down, and they are getting her back.